Did you know your iPhone can take photos like this one, or this one by just tweaking your iPhone camera settings and learning some mobile photography basics? That trusty iPhone in your pocket may be the only camera you'll ever need. After fine-tuning my iPhone camera settings for years now, I think I'm finally happy with where it's at. And in this video, I'll share those settings and an editing style that works with most iPhones. Unless, of course, your iPhone is ancient, then you'll probably want to stick to a dedicated camera. By the end of this video though, your daily snaps or vacation photos should look incredible. So let's jump right in. Now, the first thing we're going to do is fine tune your camera settings. So grab your iPhone and then pull up settings and then scroll down to camera. And then here, we're going to change some crucial settings, and some of the availability of these settings will depend on the type of iPhone you're using, but don't worry, most of these settings are universal. Up at the top, if you're using a newer iPhone, you will see these two options, but I'll talk about these later in the video, so there's no need to play around with these yet. So what we're going to do is scroll down to format, because tapping into this, here are some important settings to set your iPhone's photo file formats. So right here under the camera capture, I actually like to switch it to most compatible from the default high efficiency. So basically, high efficiency uses a compression algorithm to store images in smaller file sizes, while the most compatible option here preserves the original quality of the photo. Our goal in this video is to take the best looking photos possible on an iPhone, so the most compatible option is the option you want to use. So moving down to photo capture, tap into photo mode and make sure you set this to 24 megapixels for the highest quality photos. Again, they'll be larger in file size, but the quality gain in your photos will be totally worth it. Underneath that, if you have a Pro model iPhone, you'll get access to ProRAW format, which is the highest quality photos possible on an iPhone and retains significantly more data in photos. So you absolutely want to toggle this on. I'll show you how to take advantage of ProRAW later in this video, but for now, just toggle this on if you're using an iPhone Pro. If you're not using an iPhone Pro, that's okay, you can skip this. Now tap into Pro default, and then make sure to set this to ProRAW Max for the highest megapixel output possible. And if you're using iOS version 17 or higher, you'll actually see a new section here. You'll see the ProRAW format option here, and I recommend setting this to JPEG XL lossless, which is a relatively new format that future-proofs your iPhone. It will compress photos without any loss of quality, so the highest quality shots take up much less space on your iPhone. So that's the settings for formats. So we can swipe back out into camera settings, and then under preserve settings, let's click into this. Now here in preserve settings, we can toggle on certain settings to remain the same even if we come out of the camera app or even restart your iPhone. So here are the certain settings I suggest being preserved, and I like to avoid macro control. I like to turn this off, and I also like to remove exposure adjustments, night mode, and action mode, because these are settings you want to manually turn on if you need it, and not as the base camera setting that you get when you enter into the camera app. So going back out, I personally don't like using the use volume up for burst because I'll accidentally tap it, and I've done that before, so I've toggled it off. But here's a pro tip. So the easier way to burst photos, let me bring up the camera app, is essentially when you're bursting a photo, the easier way to do it is by holding down the camera button and swiping to the left. So I'll show you how to do it just like that, and it's bursting a bunch of photos. So, that's just a handy trick when you're taking photos of, let's say, your partner, and she wants her entire photo roll filled up and can't blame you for not taking enough photos. Use that trick and thank me later. Moving on, scan QR codes I just leave on because it's pretty handy to scan QR codes with the camera app, considering QR codes are everywhere now. Same thing with show detected text. This is useful if you want to copy text from the camera. So really, it's just giving extra functionality to your iPhone cameras, less to do with taking photos. Now, composition here, is one of the most important things when taking a photo. So I like to toggle on all of these composition tools, and these settings will toggle on, for example, let's go back here, the grid lines, the leveler, as you can see here, which will help you straighten your shots. And then the view outside the frame setting lets you see beyond the lens frame. So you can see what's here and up here instead of having black bars up the top, which just makes it an easier time to reframe things that are outside of the shot frame. So basically all these composition tools here will give you an easier time composing your shot rather than just eyeballing the shot. Now moving over here under photo capture, if you have one of the newer iPhones, you'll see the Fusion camera options here. So basically this isn't anything special, and if you don't have this option, you don't have to worry about missing out on much at all. The name is just a fancy Apple term for basically set digital zoom that mimics different focal lengths. So as you can see, I have these switched on and default to the standard 24:1x, and they look like this in the camera app. So basically, if you tap 1x, you can change to 28mm, 35mm, which is basically 1.5 times, and back to 24mm. So it's just a zoom amplifier, and yeah, nothing too special there. So going back out, portraits in photo mode is absolutely worth turning on. This allows you to change the focal length in post, which is essentially like the blur amount in the background to foreground to give you that nice creamy bokeh effect on your iPhone shots. Next is prioritize faster shooting. So as you can see, I've turned this off because this controls the burst mode function that I showed you earlier. And I like to turn this off because we want to maximize the photo quality as much as possible. So by not prioritizing faster camera shooting, it lowers the burst capture speed in exchange for slightly more quality and detail on each photo. But if you regularly take photos of, let's say, fast moving objects like cars or animals, you'll want to toggle this setting on. Under lens correction, I always like to have this turned on. It helps to make ultra wide shots look a little more normal and not have a dramatically warped perspective. Then finally down here, I have macro control turned on, and this is really important because the iPhone has a really annoying habit of auto switching to macro shots when you don't actually want it to, and it turns the entire focus out of whack. All right, so now that we have all the base settings tuned just right, let's move on to how to actually take the most ideal photo and how to turn normal looking photos into something really special. So to take great photos on an iPhone, it's really important to understand when to use specific camera lenses on the back of your iPhone. If you use the wrong lens for a situation, you'll end up with an average looking photo or video. So generally an iPhone will have 2 to 3 lenses, and that'll obviously depend on the type of iPhone you're using. The main lens or the 1x zoom captures a wide view of your subject. This is the most common lens used on iPhones, and it'll produce the most detailed photos, and it's the lens that performs best in low light situations. The ultra wide lens, 0.5x zoom, captures an ultra wide view of your subject. You'll get a lot more of the scenery into the shot, but it won't be as detailed, especially in low light situations. This lens is best used for landscapes, groups of people, and reverse selfies. But if you're in a spot with very little light, you want to avoid using the ultra wide lens unless you're shooting in ProRAW mode. Then if you have a Pro model iPhone, you also get the telephoto zoom lens, and this one is what you want to use when capturing distant subjects, for example, at a concert or just bringing the subject closer from afar. Now moving on to my favorite part, color correction and color grading. This is one of the most important steps in creating a show-stopping iPhone shot because after all, colors make half the photo, right? So color grading takes normal looking iPhone photos like these ones here and then transforms them into moody and vibrant shots that really will stop the person looking at it. The best part is that you can color correct and color grade photos right from your iPhone. You can either manually color grade through an app like Adobe Lightroom, use a color preset, or use Apple's inbuilt photographic styles feature. So using Apple's new photographic styles button right here, this is a pretty easy way to quickly edit photos. You'll get far less control, but it is an easy and fast way to color correct a photo or give it a certain stylistic look. If you want a guide or a base photograph photographic style to use across most of your photos, I recommend using the natural setting here, and then basically pulling down the tone to -25 and the color by -2, and then the palette at 80. Then I set this as a default to automatically color correct all the snaps I take on my iPhone. I find that this specific palette removes the iPhone's sort of yellowish tints from its post-processing, and it creates a more true to life color for quick iPhone snaps. But the other easy way to color grade is by using presets, which give you a beautiful look and theme to your photos. So if you have an iPhone Pro that can shoot in ProRAW, I highly recommend shooting in this mode to get the most out of your iPhone cameras and capture as much detail and data as possible. This mode is going to help bring out the most from a preset. And if you can't shoot in ProRAW, that's fine. You can always shoot non-ProRAW photos and still apply a preset. So I'll show you how this works right from the phone. So first, you'll want to import your photo into a photo editor that's capable of applying a preset. And the one that I recommend and I'm using right here is Lightroom Mobile. So let's just start with this photo right here. And you want to tap this button right here. And this will bring up essentially the presets. So I've loaded in my own AZ01 iPhone presets here for an example. And if you want to use these presets on your own photos, feel free to download the custom presets in the description box below. So first you want to apply the preset. So I have 5 custom presets here. And you can see that if I tap onto one, it immediately changes the vibe and feel and look of this photo. And it's just a really great and easy way to set up a base foundation and a consistent professional look across your photos. So let's just play with AZ02 as the base foundation. So applying the base preset, you can already tell that it looks pretty good. But typically from here, I'll play around with the lighting, color, and detail. So looking at the photo, I'll probably pull down the highlights a little bit so it's not overblown, just slightly. And then I might bring up the shadows slightly for more detail on this actual building. And then from here, I'll probably play around with the color slightly too. But with this particular one, I'm actually pretty happy with this photo. So you can sort of see like how fast it is when applying a preset. I'll give you another example. I've also developed a custom preset that mimics that filmic Fuji type look. So this is just a sunrise photo that I took the other day. And let's apply that preset. So clicking that, you can immediately see how much more moody this photo looks. It adds a lot of character. So let's show you the previous before and after. This looks like, you know, sort of a typical iPhone photo, but adding the preset, it has such a moody look that I absolutely love. And I honestly wouldn't change much with this photo. I think it looks great as it is. So let's go back. I'll show you a couple more examples of how powerful presets are. So let's go into this one here. So this one, you know, pretty basic looking photo. There's nothing really going on with it. There's not much that we can tweak and change, but I've developed preset 01 to give you a very sort of monotone, clean look. So you can see the difference here. If I apply this, immediately, sort of the car is in the central focal point and everything else is sort of dimmed down. So I'll show you the before and after of this too. So as you can see, everything is sort of flat from here. Everything is dimmed down and it gives this really sort of like stark, dark night type feel. So those were all DNG photos, right? So they were taken as ProRAW photos, but I'll show you how it works on just a normal JPEG photo too. So this, I love the composition of this shot, and the presets will also work on a photo like this that's not a RAW photo. So you can see it gives it immediately different looks and vibes. So I personally like this one here, but yeah, the point here is that it does work on normal photos. It's just that you don't get and retain as much detail as ProRAW photos, but it still works on standard photos here. If you do like the look of these presets and you want to use them for your own iPhone photos, check out the link below. And you know what, actually, since you got this far into the video and tutorial, and I'm feeling pretty generous, I'll create a 20% discount code for you to use. I'll throw it up on screen somewhere here after I've created the code so you can apply it during checkout. So yeah, I hope you found this video useful. And if you do end up snapping and sharing photos with these settings or these presets, I'd love for you to tag me at Andrew Ethan Zeng on Instagram, and I'll try to reply to them myself. And drop a photography in the comments below, and I'll give it a like for making it to the very end of this video. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.